Thank you for listening to this DesiYUP talk show about financial well-being. My name is Mahesvari Autar, and the first guest in this program is Kalpana Raghuraman.
So my name is Kalpana Raghuraman. I was born and brought up in the Netherlands, born to South Indian parents. So I was brought up in a South Indian culture, we could say. I studied cultural anthropology. At the same time, I was always dancing. My mother was dancing when she was pregnant with me. So I always dance started very early for me. So I was having dance in my life because my mother was teaching, she was performing. We were having artists come over at our place from India who were on tour in Europe. So I was in this very rich cultural environment. And after my cultural anthropology, the last year of my studies, of my master's, I also did research about transmission of knowledge in India, in Bharatanatyam itself. So that allowed me to live in India, study dance more, and do research, so really get more into the field there. After that, I started to develop my own dance practice more in the Netherlands. So I started to develop myself more as an artist as well, while still doing some research for the university and doing a little bit of anthropological work that turned out into working for Omroep Hindu Media, for radio and TV, to do research for them. And then my dance practice really took over. Started to do more with my Bharatanatyam. That ended up becoming more curious for contemporary work because I was touring classical work in India, in the States, in Europe, but I was getting more curious what I could do with my form. And now, quite a few years later, I have my own dance company called Kalpana Arts, and we use classical Indian dance music, Indian sources of inspiration, really like mythology, architecture, philosophy, to create contemporary performances that speak about the world of today. So speaking about Indian, like let's say the Indian rich world, and connecting it to the contemporary world by also working with live music, but also dancers from different backgrounds, not only Indian. And besides that, I also am a Access Consciousness certified facilitator. Access Consciousness is a modality that really gives you tools to have more ease in your life, to get empowered, and to create the changes that you would like to create in whatever area of your life. So I'm a trainer, a facilitator in that, and I have quite a worldwide business. So I travel, I give a lot of classes online. So both these things keep me busy.
How did you got involved in the trainings and coaching and being an activator?
I was always curious about, let's call it human development potential. I was always very spiritual. Both my parents were also. So I was growing up going to all kinds of meditation retreats, and all these things were part of my world. And I found Access Consciousness. My father sent me some interview and he's like, I think this would be something for you. And it wasn't in my world at all. And even when I started to follow classes, I was still like, oh, I only do dance and this is something just that interests me. But when I started to see how I was partially already doing some things, but not realizing it, and started to apply the tools, I saw the change it was creating and the change in my life, but also the people around me when I was sharing the tools. And I was like, oh my God, this is for everybody. So that inspired me.
And can you give an example of change that you have experienced yourself?
With Access Consciousness, the tools are so practical that allows you to apply it and not only think about it or have to do your meditation in the morning and otherwise it doesn't work. It's really like in your day-to-day life, you start to live the tools. So if I apply it to dance, it would be actually asking the dancers what they know, asking their bodies to let go of any judgments about movement, or if they have a performance, there's people who come with expectations or with judgments or with criticism. What if you don't allow that to affect you, but you start to ask for the contribution of all the energies and the body? So really looking at things from a different perspective, where we work a lot with asking questions. So it has changed a lot for creating ease. A lot of people say, and I think Mahesvari, you know this one, like, you do so many things. How do you do so many things? And for me, it's like I got over the point of view that I don't have much time. I also got over the point of view that there's only so many things you can do. The more you relax, the more you can actually do. And I'm a really relaxed person, but I'm creating a lot. So there's all these points of views that changed in my world. Then suddenly I can do so much more than I was doing before.
Does it also has to do, and this is my assumption, that since you are only giving your time to the things that you really enjoy, it's because of that you get the energy back to do more?
Well, I think that it's not even that you lose energy, because a lot of times we think like I do so many things and I don't have energy left, but we are actually having so much energy. Our bodies are generating so much energy, even on a cellular molecular level. And then the world is having so much energy. There is so much energy around. There's this idea of like we finish our battery and then we have to charge our battery. But what I've noticed is, because, we all know we have to do things that we don't like taxes or applications for projects. And then what if you start to be like, hey, but if I do this, it's going to create something greater in my world, because if I don't pay my taxes, I might end up in jail. So you kind of start to see the contribution of even something extremely boring and not positive. So you start to be different with everything, because otherwise you get a bit stuck. Like, I only want to do the things that are fun for me. And then it doesn't always work, because unfortunately, that's not how the world works. It starts to get you into this energy of like, hey, I am the creator of my life. Because as soon as we see that we can choose something, we get already empowered. It's mostly when we feel we're obliged to do something that we get disempowered. But you're not obliged to pay taxes. It just might work out better if you do.
Since we spoke about taxes, that's also the subject that I would like to delve into more. How does your income flow look like?
So for the dance company, after a lot of work, we have subsidy. We get funding from the municipality of The Hague, and we get also subsidy from, let's call it the national, the funding for performing arts. So that has created, that was not always the case, but that has created a certain kind of like, let's call it, like you said, stability. So every month, me as artistic director, I get a certain amount of money, which has not been like the case for most of my life. It's just the last 5 years that's happened, 5.5 years that I'm actually having like a specific income every month from dance that I never used to have before 5.5 years.
If we talk about the subsidy part that you receive a grant from the municipality, is it a one-time thing?
In our case, we got funding for 4 years. It's called structural subsidy. So you have the budget we make, me and the manager, business director, and we split the amount of money that we are applying for. And we say, okay, this much goes to the directors, this much goes to the artist, this much goes to a technical producer, this much goes to promotion, this much goes. So we have all this stuff per year, and then you divide it by 12, which allows you to have a monthly income. So that's how that is done. And then when you apply, they check it's a whole big machine of things that you need to do. And then in the end, they say, okay, this is how much we are gifting you. And then depending on if the budget is same or not, you adjust your own budget. And so from the money we get, I get some money, the production manager gets money, the business director gets money. So a certain amount of people get their monthly income because they're staff.
Say having a business director is not a fortune that every artist has. So you are, in that sense, already a couple of steps ahead.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's from the many years that I've been dancing, over 25, it's the last 5 years that I have somebody like that. So it's also not something that I'm like, oh, I woke up with a manager. As an artist, my model was being aware that you're required to invest. Like, if you're not willing to invest, it's very hard in the art world to develop. So you invest in classes, and you invest in going to performances, and you invest in, if you're a singer, you need certain instruments or material or audio things or computer things and all the photography for your promotion. So there's always this awareness of investing. But investing, we often sense it as, oh, I'm losing money, right? Like, oh, I had to do a photo shoot because I have no photos and it cost whatever, 500 euros. But if you see it as an investment into the future that is going to pay you dividends, this 500 euros is going to bring me so many shows. What else? Interviews. So you start to create. You always start to see whatever you invest, not lose, not spend. You're creating the future with it. So I was performing. I would keep money on the side. I would use that money to go to India, to pay all my teachers, to do all my classes, come back, perform, repeat. And then at a certain moment, you start to create more money than you need to spend. It's the long run. I think you know that so well, Mahesvari. Any artist, if you choose it, you don't do it for the quick bucks, then it's totally the wrong job you're choosing. But if you're willing for the long sprint, then you have to sprint and know when to, you have to, just like a runner plans his marathon, you have to kind of be aware of, like, some moments you might be a bit low, but you also will have moments that are high. And if you're present with your financial reality, you can start to see, okay, that's coming. So let's be aware.
I also had many conversations with artists about the financial presence, as you call it so beautifully. many of them, they find it very hard to even make a planning or a schedule. So can you give with your own examples how you do your calculation for example, rates or projects that you take up?
It's really hard for artists to put money on what they offer because we are just not, we don't, what we bring is kind of, it's kind of senseless to say like 200 euros or 2,000 euros. It's not really the same, scale. So it's always hard for artists. And then we've not been encouraged to see the value of us. We're mostly like, oh, that could have been better. So we're also like always knowing that we can be better. So, and then we're also quite humble. And then we're like, oh, we cannot ask too much money. So there's all these things that doesn't really encourage us to be really bold in a way or clear. For many years, my motto was either it's financially interesting or artistically interesting. But if it's neither, I'm not doing it. Now, most of the times they ask us, how much is your performance? And I would never have a standard rate. I would often be just aware, like, hey, what is this creating? So how much, and I would ask them, how much did you have in your budget? So it gives you an awareness of where they are functioning from. Sometimes it would be much more than I was going to ask, and sometimes much less, a lot of times. And then I would say, hey, I required to put in like this amount of time. So I would actually match the project, the energy, what it was going to create with me to the money. So sometimes the money wouldn't be so much, but I was aware like, yeah, but this is going to create, like I'm going to work with an amazing artist. I'm going to grow. I'm going to get exposure. This is going to create something. I don't even know what, but there's an energy to it. And sometimes we'll be like, hey, I need a lot of time for this. So I require this amount of money. But what worked for me is not having a fixed rate, because then you just miss the boat a lot of times. You could even get more money if you're stuck with your fixed rate. So asking the people what they're having in mind, you open the door for them to, if they really want you to ask to, then you can start to talk. So you have to be willing to say that, which is not easy for artists because we're looking for work and trying to manage, and it's like, oh, maybe I should just, and I'm not allowed to say no. Sometimes it's like, hey, it's not honoring me if I say yes to this. I can't do this, being willing to say no and always being willing to look at everything and say yes as well. With the Access Consciousness classes, it's my own business. So I might be invited somewhere, but it's my business. So I have to pay my ticket. I have to pay the venue for the class. I have to, print the manuals or have the massage tables and have my hotel room. So there's a lot of expenses. I work a lot of times with translation. So I have translation device and translators. But even the make sense part doesn't always make sense. There's a class and there's like not that many people, but the energy is so on. And it's like, okay, is this class going to create more in the world? Is it going to create more in the world if I go to this class and do it, or if I don't do it? And if the do it is louder, I don't care about the money, because the money will come much more than what is coming at that very moment. So then it might seem like, oh, you're not making money. It's like, yeah, but I'm creating something greater. And that money will show up.
They pay a fixed amount, or is it also a flexible amount depending on the program that you offer them?
It depends on the program. So there's a lot of core classes from Access Consciousness with the manual, and that one is fixed. So that is, they have a percentage per country. So based on the country where you live. So everybody pays the same price, doesn't matter. You just choose which facilitator you want to go to. But you don't. So it's a really great system to not create competition between people. Then there's a lot of classes that I create myself. And for that, I create my own prices. So it's up to me. And I do the same thing that I do for performances. How much does this want to cost? How much does this workshop want to cost? How much does this online program want to cost? So ask the product, the thing that is going to generate money, how much it wants to cost.
But is there a scale between that skill you work?
There's an awareness of what works. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, I'm doing this Christmas thing, €5, because I'm in a Santa Claus mood. There's some prices that that work for you. And sometimes it will be a bit more, sometimes, but it's totally open. Yeah.
So that means that your monthly income is always fluctuating. You do not have a fixed monthly income that you can actually count on?
No, I don't. And I have staff. I pay like a lot of people per month. I mean, I have a lot of people who have payroll with me, people who have a monthly payment, or people who are working as translators. So they have a certain amount of hours because they do things for me. And then I get their sheet with how much they worked. And then so I have expenses, but my income is fluctuating always. But this is kind of, for me, really normal. I've never kind of, like I said, the income from dance is only the last 5 years in like this long career of having some stability. So it's, for me, money comes, money goes, the more you're willing to be present with it, and the more you start to see that money is a receiving thing and not a calculation thing, the more money can come to you. That is what changed for me. We have a lot of points of views that artists can get rich. Why? Because that's what we've seen, but it's not true. It's a certain way of being with money and a certain relationship with money. You know, there's a lot of shame of asking money. If people say, oh, everybody's asking 200, you're asking 400, then you have to feel bad. You know, there's all these energies around money that are very, in all cultures, I would say, and not only, you know, everywhere, what I've seen also from all my travels, around money that makes people not clear and not actually able to access what they can have as a potential for creating wealth. If you start to create wealth from valuing and following the energy and being willing to receive money without any judgment, you're going to create like a muscle of literally like strengthening your muscle of receiving, which is what I've seen with my dance. Like I said, 25 years in the last more than 25 years. In my last 5 years, I am actually getting some money that I could say, hey, I'm actually having an income in dance. Wow. You know, it's not because I worked so hard. I finally got, you know, I got like blessed with money. It's not cause and effect, it's choice. And at a certain moment, I started to choose like, hey, you know, what if I can create money with dance? And what if we can create something? And then things started to move. So I know that something changed in me that allowed the money to show up. One of the things that you can start to do is start to become present, start to make a list of how much does your life even cost. When I did that, I was like, oh my God, now I know why I never have money. And then start to ask for more than that money to show up. But already you have an awareness, wow, okay, what else can I create? So you start to activate your own potential to create money based on the information like, hey, if I would live my life the way I like, which means I have a holiday, which means I'm able to go out for dinner sometimes, actually see how much your life costs practically, like all your insurances, your house, blah, blah, blah. Add all the things you would like in your life. Add all that to how much would that cost? Divided by 12, so you have a monthly amount. This is what my life costs a month. Okay, lady, step up. What can I create for this to be more? So I will have at least 20% over. Then everything you invest in, everything you buy, like I said, I don't never say spending, is always investing. Everything you buy, is this going to create more or less? Look at the energy, light or heavy. I will never buy anything that doesn't make that is not expansive, including like a carrot. And my money's expenditure is never an expenditure. It's always an investment. So you're always making babies with your money. You're making more money with your money. So that's a whole different energy with money. Start to have money with you more than you would normally carry. Start so that you get present with your wallet, but you also start to have the energy of having money. Put €100 or whatever amount is for your fun in your wallet to start to sense this energy of money in your world, in your body, around you. You open your wallet and you see the €100. You go, oh my God, wow. Don't spend it. But it's like actually creating this energy with you and money that is not having any shame, that's not having any problem, that is not connected to suffering and to fear, but actually generating this creative relationship.
I think that is the way you describe your relationship with your financial well-being.
Yeah. So everything you spend, look at what is that going to create? So you start to really look at using money as a way of creating and investing into your own financial well-being. I like that word, Mahesvari, and your wealth. And so then things start to find you. I ask the things to find me. If you're looking for a new mic for your show, ask the mic to find you. Ask those things to find you. And then the money will help you to make that a reality. So it becomes like a co-creation with even these investments.
How does these two worlds merge for you?
All the time. I mean, I would say my Access Consciousness facilitator work, it's my life. It's how I live, the tools, everything is just there. Of course, I have to do things like post on Facebook or look for the venue or fix the dates and but it's this willingness to be present with all your projects. Like even I was talking to a musician yesterday. He said, oh my God, there was so much quiet for so long and now I have so many projects, right? It can be as similar as having a lot of projects as an artist. I have a lot of projects. I have some are access classes, some are dance creations, but I see them all as projects, all as creations. So having an expanded zone of awareness, always being aware of all the things that are up, and then being aware what requires your attention, not having a point of view that it's too much or you can't handle it, because those are lies. It's just lies. Relax. The more busy you get, the more you want to relax, the more you can be efficient, the quicker you can create. They really feed each other. My dance business gets so much from my access business because I use the tools, I have the body work, I have all the things that I share with the artists, and I'm really creating with a lot of influence from access. When I'm in access, I have all this awareness of bodies that I have because I have my dance work. So they all influence and feed each other. Don't separate your projects. I don't separate my businesses anymore. I used to a lot. And then I was like kind of doing competition between the two, even if I don't want to, but allow them all to feed.
Thank you so much for doing this interview with me, and I really hope to enjoy one of your next productions in Holland very soon.
I hope so too, Mahesvari. Thank you so much for this conversation.